Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the show. And as you can tell, today we have a very special guest indeed. We have the actress Tina from Friday the 13th, Part 5, as well as the director, writer, and actor of the recent release 13 Fanboy, Deborah Voorhees. Deborah, how are you today?
I'm doing terrific, Sam. Thank you so much for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I have to say, I am such a fan of your work, and what you've done recently is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate that.
So if we could start with the recent release, which I think to me kind of came out of nowhere. I kind of saw a lot of the actors post a lot about it, and it was something I didn't know what to expect, but it was the movie I think a fan of a franchise like Friday the 13th needed, and that is 13 Fanboy. If you could just talk to start with and tell us kind of how the whole idea came to light.
Absolutely. That actually came, the idea came from a true situation. I was talking with my producing partner, Joel Paul Reisig, and he was curious about what it was like, horror fans were like. I said, well, I mean, horror fans are pretty darn amazing. I said, they're fun. They're like hanging out with a bunch of kids who like to dress up for Halloween. You know, they're just fun. And I said, they're really nice and they're super respectful. I said, I just adore the horror fans. And he said, well, has anything kind of weird ever happened? Is it ever scary? I said, well, not really, but there were a couple situations that kind of unnerved me a little bit. And one of them was, I got a message on Facebook Messenger that wouldn't it be cool if you died in real life like you did in Friday the 13th? And if you'll remember, that line's in the movie. And, you know, we know that I died with garden shears through the eyes. So needless to say, that's not on the top of my list of things I want to do in my life. Pretend is great fun because everybody's being silly. You're putting on the makeup, you're putting on the stuff, and you're trying to make things look scary when it's not scary at all on the set. Nothing about it is scary until you put it all together with the music and sound effects and stuff. But so then I had 3 weeks later, I blocked that person, and I don't know if this next person was the same or someone different. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting alone in my office. It's late at night. I have a large French doors that open up to the outside and a single light on, writing on a script. And I get a message, ding. I check it. I'm watching you. Ding, ding, ding. The person's making it clear that he's pretending to be Jason. I'm assuming it's a he. It is possible it was not, but I'm making that assumption that he's Jason, and he's watching me at that moment, which was actually possible given the scenario. I lived out in the middle of nowhere, so it was just opening up into woods. And he was there to kill me. I blocked him. As far as I know, this person hasn't contacted me again. First thing my producing partner said, that's our movie. I'm like going, oh, hell no. Are you kidding me? That's not our movie. That's real life. That's something that can really happen. That's really scary. I'm talking about a pretend monster that, you know, doing something where, you know, pretend monsters coming out of a grave or something like that, that you know can't actually happen, right?
Yeah.
Totally different from real life. And then he springs it on me that he actually wants me to play a role in the film. And he wants me to die. I'm like, yeah. So let me get this straight. I'm going to play myself, have a stalker who kills me. Well, for an actor, that's way scarier than, you know, come on board and you're going to play a character who's stalked, right?
Yeah.
Well, So the more I thought about it, the more I realized this really was our movie. And I also thought about it, and it was like, if I'm going to ask other people to come on and play themselves being stalked, I need to be the first one up to bat. And so I decided to do it. And, you know, I also knew I wanted to direct, so I was a bit hesitant about doing it because there's a lot of responsibility with directing. And so to try and act and direct at the same time can be difficult, but I'm really glad I did it. I'm thrilled that I did. I actually have a scene in there with Dee Wallace, which was, talk about a dream come true.
Tell me.
That Hollywood icon. It was magnificent. And so, yeah, I'm thrilled. That's how it started. And from that moment on, then we just started putting everything together and making it happen.
Well, you know, that the story about how it started, to be honest, I never heard the story before. And it just, my palms are like sweating at the idea of it. But it must be, you know, I can imagine in those days between that happening and the directors are saying, this is our movie, and you deciding, I can't imagine the thoughts that must be going through your head. That's got to be kind of like
yeah, when my producing partner said that this was the thing, I was quite nervous about, you know, I don't know if I would have done it if I wasn't directing, you know, because me in control of how the story came out, that kept me in control, and basically taking care of the other actors too, because I felt a huge responsibility because I'm asking people to come on playing themselves. And that's just so much more intimidating, given the topic. Not if it wasn't this topic, playing yourself wouldn't be that big a deal. Yeah, I don't know if I would have. It's hard to say.
I think that the sad thing is I could be mistaken, but I vaguely remember sort of reading similar things happening to similar stars also in 13 Fanboy.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, in the general consensus, what was the other actors' response when you kind of first approached them regarding this movie?
You know, some people jumped on board right away, and some people took pause, and some turned us down. I totally get, you know, some people were willing to do it, but they didn't want to die in the film. Of course, you know, it's a slasher film, we got to have some deaths. So that's one of the reasons why I chose to kill myself. And I'm not giving away any plot points, because that is part of our plot outline that we published, is that my granddaughter witnesses my death. And that kind of pushes everything into full force. When she gets to be older, she realizes the killer's still out there, and there's been more than just myself killed. So it's that's a difficult kind of situation to grapple with. Adrienne King, we approached her about being a part of the film, but she had a longtime stalker, and that was
I've read about that
for her. I don't know her situation, but I do know that she told me, she said, Deb, she goes, you don't know how close you got to mine. I was like, whoa, okay. And then the Laura Park Lincoln, who does a brilliant job in this film. She just really is wonderful in it. She was excited about coming on board right away, but she was also hesitant. And but she had a stalker for 6.5 years. That was an intense situation. And then Judy Aronson, who's also in the film, she had a stalker for a while. Now, hers was not Friday the 13th related, but nonetheless, you know, the stalker.
still as bad.
Right, exactly.
But I think it shows how strong you all are, you know, to go through such, you know, things that a lot of people can't even imagine, and to portray it in a movie which has become, you know, in the community a really beloved movie. I think that says a lot about yourselves.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't want to like there. It's been out a few months. I did see it when it came out. I watched the movie, and I don't want to spoil it just in case there's some people watching this haven't seen it. But I have to urge people to go see it. It's truly the movie which I think a lot of fans of the franchises, whether it's Friday or Halloween or even Nightmare on Elm Street, some
Mhm.
people are always looking for something a bit different, and this is the perfect blend between the franchise and fans together, and it is something that I think I can see long term going to become a trend, I think.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I am really excited about it. The response has been very good to the film. You know, we don't have the huge advertising budget to get the word
Yeah,
out much. So word of mouth helps us. If anybody can, you know, if you love the film, please write us a review. We
absolutely.
like on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, or wherever you rented it. That really helps us out a ton. But I do, and my distributor concurs that this is going to be something that's going to go and become more and more popular as time goes on. So,
You can see it. It is the, like I said, it's something you never realize you needed until you've watched this movie, and that's when I'm like, I have to see more of this.
oh, that's fantastic. I love to hear that.
So in regards to both acting and directing in the movie, sort of what was it like on set?
You know, one of the things that's super important to me is having a peaceful, cohesive group.
Mhm.
Uh, my goal is to make it like a family, and I had more than one cast and crew member call me mom. It's like having your director, your mom is your director. I was also not only telling you what to do, but making sure that everybody had what they needed. And if anybody wasn't feeling good, that they were okay. So, but part of what I do when ever I'm hiring is I talk to the individuals and I explain to them what I'm looking for. And I want very low key, easygoing people. The reality is this world is filled with talented people. So I don't really need to deal with assholes. And I don't want anybody being ugly or mean to any member of my crew or my cast. And that's a great way, if I know about it, of getting, you know, removed
Yeah.
quick if you're rude to somebody on cast or crew. And so all cast members are expected. You know, it's not, you know, if somebody's having a bad day or something, you know, I don't mind having a chat with them and saying, hey, like, you know, we just don't do that. Sorry. But people need to be respectful and kind. And so, yeah, the set was, you know, I can't tell you how many people said it was, you know, a family. And we are. We're, you know, continuing to be a family, and, you know, and working with people in the franchise and with Dee, who's also, you know, in the slasher world from
Yeah.
Halloween. And I mean, horror world, talk about all the different horror films it's been in. It's just been phenomenal, right?
A true icon.
And all the different films in general, not all of them have been horror.
Mhm.
You know, it's just I don't know, it was like a coming together, even for the people that hadn't met each other yet, because part of this world. It was like meeting extended family you hadn't met before, you know?
Yeah, exactly, and because that's something which I was going to kind of ask about. So a lot of the cast in this movie, it's strange because, like I said, you are a family in as much as you're part of the Friday family, but you might not have
Right.
been in the same movie as a lot of the others. So
Right.
I would presume that you would sort of have met others previously, like via conventions and things?
I had. And of course, when we went to conventions for Friday the 13th, I would re-see several of my cast members. Not everybody does the conventions,
Yeah,
but I did get to, re-see, and that really is very much so a family situation.
brilliant. So another thing that I kind of wanted to ask, I'm pretty sure it's still going on, but I know with the Friday the 13th franchise, there's always a lot of like legal issues
Right.
with the franchise, and I'm pretty sure it's still going on to this day. I could be wrong.
Yes, it
Did you
is.
kind of stumble into any problems, or was there any sort of like obstacles in your way while filming?
Well, there was a little bit, not terribly, because since we weren't making a Friday the 13th film, that made it a little bit simpler. But our lawyer is Larry Zerner. And of course, also he played Shelley in Friday the 13th as well. So I have Friday the 13th people all over this film and fans all over this film. And he helped us navigate what we could and couldn't do. For example, we could talk about the person being a part of Friday the 13th. We could, let's see, we could use their name as long as it wasn't their character name. Oh, you played, like for the case of Tracy Savage, we could say she played Debbie in Friday the 13th, right?
Right.
What we couldn't do without permission, and this is the one sticking point we had at the horror convention, we wanted to use images on the banners from Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we put the names of the Friday the 13th and what Friday the 13th they were in, but we couldn't get permission. They did not want to be a part of this film. And I understand why. And I think in general, I understand why many in the horror community who make films didn't want to be a part of this, is because it's kind of like opening Pandora's box. There was a little fear. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Actually, a really scary, scary topic. Do we want to be a part of this?
Mm-hmm.
And for those at, with Friday the 13th, the answer was no. And so we were not able to use. They didn't even say offer us an obscene amount, make it so expensive. They knew that for small indie we couldn't afford it. Just flat out said no.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like I can understand that, and I think there is such a problem in the legal aspect with the franchise, and like you said, I think there seems to be a lot going on at the moment. Maybe they didn't want to try and deal with something else on top of that.
Right.
I'm really hoping that it all gets resolved. I'd love there to be another Friday the 13th movie. Fingers crossed.
Me too. I want to see, and I don't know if anybody, many would agree with me, but the movie that I want to see is the prequel. And that is, I want to meet Jason as a young boy, meet his mom, meet his dad, possible siblings. That's never been said yay or nay on. So that element could be added in. And then meet him up maybe into his first kills and find out when they happen and how they happened. My thoughts on it is they probably started pretty early on.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Wouldn't
That
that
would
be
be
cool?
so cool.
That
like
to
you said,
me is the movie.
yeah, for sure. Because you don't, as you said, you don't really know anything about him
Right.
even from the very beginning. Or we heard about the story about how he drowned in the lake, but
Right.
other than that, like there's nothing predating that. So it'd be really cool.
Yeah, to explore that whole area. And I also think that it would be really interesting to take a look at how and why he was deformed. It's never said for certain that it was a birth, at birth kind of thing. So it could be some kind of, you know, chemical disaster or, you know, abuse situation, and we don't know. And so that would be, I think, would be a really interesting thing to look at.
Absolutely. And as you said, there are so many directions you could go with it. So it'd be very, very free, and I think like a director's dream really to
Right.
go for a major franchise and have complete freedom over what they want to do. That'd be pretty
Right.
cool.
Absolutely.
So if we could move to talk about Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning,
Sure.
which you definitely have become probably the most loved character out of the movie, I would personally say.
Oh, thank you.
I think the impact you had on the film is absolutely incredible. I was just wondering, sort of, how did the role first come to light for you? How did you first hear about the role, and how did you sort of get the part?
Well, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I had an agent, and studios send over what's called sides, and they're basically the actor will read from. My agent, he looked at, you know, the different roles in there and felt I was best for Tina. So that's the only one I ever read for. But when I was sent out, the line, it was a cattle call. There were tons of people in line. We didn't know initially that it was a Friday the 13th film. And so I learned before going on set, although I've heard others tell it, like Ron Sloan, he and Carol learned that it was a Friday the 13th on set when he saw the mask. Oh. So that was a pretty big deal, you know. And but yeah, and I ended up going, and I read 3 times for the part. It's kind of interesting. One of the things I find in Hollywood is they're looking for you to be, when you're, at least, you know, when you're doing your audition, to be the character that they envision in their head, more so than to work with you and talk to you about what they wanted. And so what I brought to the table, besides having the physical look of what they were looking for, was that I played the character the way that Danny Steinman wanted, which was more flirtatious, like when at the laundry, when she's doing the laundry and hanging up the clothes and stuff, and her boyfriend comes and tries to get her to run off into the woods with him, you know, she tells him, "Fuck you." And he found that the other actors were angry and I was playful, because he was like, "You're not going to be mad at your boyfriend for wanting to have some alone time with you, right?"
Yeah, right.
And so, but it's kind of funny when you really think about it, because I'm sure there were plenty of fine actresses there that with a little bit of changing in direction, they would have, you know, changed it and done what they, you know, were requested of them. But so it probably could have worked out, but I'm thrilled that I got the role, and thrilled to be a part of this franchise.
Absolutely. As you said, you know, it's, you know, some things are meant to be, and obviously what you brought to the character in those auditions is clearly what it was meant to happen. You were always meant to play Tina.
Yes.
Were
Well,
you
here,
a
and I'll tell
fan?
you this other little tidbit that you might find interesting, which me says that I was meant to play her anyway. Of course, you know, my last name is really Voorhees.
Yes.
My family since the 1300s. I've had some people think that I changed my name because of getting in the film. I'm like, no. This came long before that. Okay,
Absolutely.
so that's right. Next thing, remember in part 3 when they're at the Higgins Haven?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, my grandfather was Voorhees. My grandmother's family name was Higgins.
What?
I've also been told, and I haven't verified this, but I was told that Pamela's middle name is Sue. And
I've
I'm
heard this.
Voorhees. So tell me I didn't belong in this franchise.
It was made for you.
It was. My Nana, she told me one day that my name was going to take me far in life, which I really thought was quite funny when she told me, because it's like, yeah, right, Nana. Nana, but I was, come on, it's just a name.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I don't think she meant it this way, but she was right.
I'm sure you must be one of the only actors that has been a part of a franchise where sort of the lead character, you have the same surname or the same name as. That's
right.
pretty,
As far as I know, I am. In fact, what I tell people, I'm the only real Voorhees in the entire franchise.
It is true. You are. It's absolutely true. You are the only true Voorhees.
Right.
So were you a fan of either the franchise or just horror films in general before you got the role?
I had seen the first one and liked it very much. Given the time period that I grew up, Universal monsters.
Yes, yeah.
They were the best. I loved the Universal monsters. Things like Dark Shadows. I loved that show. And my favorite of the Universal monsters, hands down, is Frankenstein.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't get better than that to me.
No, the true classic.
I would love to do a Frankenstein movie one of these days, but I want to do it directly from the perspective of Frankenstein. I don't know if you know, but I was also taught British literature.
Okay. No, I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah, I did. And Frankenstein happens to be one of the books that I taught. And it's interesting because it's told in 3 different voices. And the center voice is the monster. And to me, that is when Mary Shelley really hit her stride and made that book really rock. And that's the place I want to stay through the whole time. I think all of the other characters are ancillary in comparison to our creature.
Absolutely. That we need to make a lot of these ideas happen. I love the ideas you're bringing to the show. I absolutely love. So we have to see a real authentic Frankenstein movie, as you said, from his perspective. That'd be day one watch.
Right.
So sort of in regards to once you got the role and you were sort of on set for part 5, what was it kind of like on set?
Well, just a lot of fun. I mean, movies, I think in general, are a lot of fun to do because you're playing make-believe. And think about when it's how much fun playing make-believe is. I think some of our biggest mistakes as adults is growing up. Sure, there's certain things we can become more responsible. We can learn to play nice with others, and all of those things are great about maturing and stuff. But to fully leave childish things behind, I think is a great mistake. Think about when you've had the most fun at any time in your life is when you really let go and have that huge belly laugh and be completely, totally silly and no worries about, anybody else. I mean, there's a period of time when you're very young and and then over time you grow up and you become more and more and more mature like this. And then older, you really start to go back the other way. That's not a bad thing. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't need to take the negative with childhood, but take the positives and really love it and adore it. And, I say by the time for my 80th birthday, my party's going to be get a big giant sand pile so we can all play in it. There will be nothing mature or sophisticated about my 80th.
No, do you know what? That's I couldn't have put it better myself. I think you've, like you said, this. I think when you get into adulthood, there is just so much pressure and so much sort of fight a lot of the time, and being made to maybe do things you don't always want to do. But just go back to enjoying yourself and do things that make you happy. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And we all deserve it. We all, when you give that to yourself, guess what? So many of your worries melt away because, what is there to worry about? There really isn't anything to worry about. There's a fantastic saying that I live by is worrying about tomorrow doesn't make it safer. So you can become aware of what needs to be done and act on it to get to the direction you want to. But worrying only robs you of your joy of the moment. And that's, never, ever.
I love that. So in regards to, as we said on set, did you know whilst you were filming that it was going to be sort of different to the original Fridays, where we're not going to, for example, we're not going to see Jason? Did you kind of expect that when you were getting the role?
No, that was definitely kept under wraps. It was on the need to know basis only, and if you weren't a part of the team, you didn't know. And so and of course it has to be that way. You have to keep quiet how the ending's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a shame because obviously I know there was, I mean, I don't really fully believe it, that some people weren't happy with there being no Jason in the movie. And I think if you take it for what it is, and it is a fantastic film, it's probably some of the most brutal deaths throughout the entire franchise. And I think the characters were fantastic. And I really feel like as the movie sort of getting older, I feel it's becoming more and more appreciated.
Right.
What's your opinions on that?
After making the film, of course, I went to the premiere and everything, but that doesn't tend to be a general audience where you can really get a read on things. But so I decided that I was going to go to a regular movie theater, and I just went in the back row and sat. My goal was just to see how the audience responded. And I have to say, it was incredibly positive. I didn't hear any ugliness or grumbles or anything upset about the ending or anything like that. There was, how it is in a horror movie, there's many laughs as there are gasps and jumps. Because what do we do when you're sitting there, you're watching a movie, nothing really scary has just happened, but you jump out of your skin. What else can you do but laugh at yourself for jumping, right?
Of course.
And so, and that's, I think, is one of the things that makes horror fans so magical, is that they're not afraid to be kids anymore. They don't look at this and go, oh no, I'm way too mature to enjoy this. Get down there and just enjoy the scare and the boo. And, I think it's brilliant. And so, yeah, it's the making of the film and then watching it in the theater with the fans. It was wonderful. I don't think that there is as much upset about it as people think, because I think that there was maybe a 10% of the horror fans. They're loud and vocal.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you how many of them have since come to me and said, I was really upset about that, but then I realized, I love the film up until the last minute reveal. Well, isn't that silly to suddenly dislike the film?
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, of course. And then think about it this way. Part 5 is looking back at the original. It has more in common with the original than all the other Friday the 13th.
Yeah, absolutely.
About the bereaved parent behaving in an irrational way against those who had nothing to do with their child's death. That's Friday the 13th.
Absolutely. That's the thing. I think sometimes people have kind of been taken away from that a little bit, really.
Right.
And even in other franchises, I'm sure you hear it a lot, but it does compare to Halloween 3.
Mhm.
And again, it's a completely different thing, but whether it's the ending you're not happy with, or maybe, after the anticipation of the movie, you are hoping for the Jasons or the Michael Myerses, that
Mhm.
doesn't make it a bad movie. It's a
Right.
fantastic film.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree.
So once the movie had sort of come out, what was life like for you after that?
I was still, looking for roles and things. It wasn't long after that that I went ahead and decided to leave Hollywood, and I went to college, got my journalism degree. I worked for the Dallas Morning News, the Fort Worth Star Telegram, Modern Luxury Magazine, Front Desk Magazine, and much later for an online publication called uh, the Shakespeare. Why am I running blank on the full name? Shakespeare Chronicles. No, wait, Shakespeare. It's an online Shakespeare group. Man, I can't believe that I'm running completely blank on it. I'll think of it here in a minute. But it's a really good publication. It was the largest that talked about all things Shakespeare going on around the world. And the Shakespeare Standard. Gosh, I can't believe I was running blank on that. But anyway, I enjoyed working and doing that. And so, yeah, I mean, there was many things that changed. Um, Obviously, it's a very popular film. Um, I think I did, you never know what would happen if I decided to stay in Hollywood versus doing something else for a little while. But I've loved my life. I've loved everything about it. I loved the time that I taught. I loved my time as a journalist. I loved my time going to college. I loved my time in Hollywood. And now I love my time directing and writing and all of that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you've kind of had a full experience in a lot of different areas, and it's
Mhm.
great. I mean, you've been able to kind of find what it is you truly want to do, and you can always pursue other things. You don't always have to stay in the one sort of margin.
Mm-mm. No, I think that's where I notice with people who are young and coming up in the world is that they are fearful about making the wrong choice. Well, don't make the choice that you want. And I know that your parents will probably want to bitch slap me for this, but forget about your backup plan.
For sure.
Do what you want to do, because a backup plan is just your excuse for not making it. And
I
so,
agree.
and do what's best for you. And it doesn't mean that what's best for you today needs to be best for you in 20 years. Change it if you want, or stay where you are. But if you have great passion for what you do, you won't work a day in your life. People will say to me sometimes, especially like when I was shooting 13 Fanboy and stuff, and prep for it, pre-production, production, post-production, and everything. And they said, you've got to rest and relax. I'm like, I am doing what I love. That means that I am perfectly fine to work 7 days a week because it's called play. So play,
Absolutely.
enjoy, love life. It's there. And believe me, you do have a choice. Don't ever think that you're trapped or you can't do what you want to do. You always can do it. You just
I
have to.
love that.
You do. Absolutely.
I love that. It's nice. It's nice to hear people portray this kind of messages. I think maybe people don't hear it enough. So
Yes.
it's reasons like this is why I love doing these interviews, because it gives people a completely different perspective of life, and
Right.
it's a beautiful thing.
We're raised to say, be practical, survive. You're told you got to survive. So you need to do this to survive, right? No,
Yeah.
don't survive, live. That's what.
Perfect. I just have a couple more questions for you, if that's okay.
Sure.
This is just regarding conventions. And this is just because I've attended a lot of conventions over my life. So I'm just really interested to kind of see the other side of the table. So I see you've attended, do you attend quite a lot of conventions over the years? What's your overall experience with these kind of events and meeting hundreds of thousands of fans across the board?
Right. You know, I really do enjoy going to the horror convention and being able to talk one-on-one with fans. It's a real privilege to be able to meet the fans, and it's a privilege. I mean, my God, why would anybody care? Isn't that lovely that somebody does? Do I think I
Yeah.
deserve it? Not necessarily, no. Do I think I don't deserve it? No, not necessarily. But isn't it grand that it's the case? Isn't that just wonderful? You know, I treated incredibly well. Yeah, so no, I really do enjoy it. I tend to be, believe it or not, a bit of a introvert, which people would normally expect that from me because I can be very demonstrative and have long conversations and everything. I learned what it meant to be an introvert versus an extrovert. They said the way you know is that if you're around a lot of people and you gain energy, you're an extrovert, even if you might, in all intents and purposes, appear to be an extrovert. Say you're just the person that kind of sits in the corner, but the mere activity of the humans around you brings you energy. And if you lose energy, then you're an extrovert. And I'm usually pretty darn exhausted by the time the 3-day weekend is done. And I definitely need some quiet time to myself at that point. But overall, I absolutely adore it and love it. And, you know, I love doing it and will continue to, as long as, you know, the fans care and would like to see me, I'll come and hang and visit and say hello.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, the fans of like I said, especially horror, I think forever they're always going to attend because it sort of goes down through generations. And you know, I got into horror because my mum's a big horror fan, and now my younger brother's a horror fan because we've both watched the movie. So it's like a generational thing, and I think it's always going to go on, I think.
Right.
So do you have any particular moments with fans that kind of sticks out in your head more?
Well, I think, you know, you can't help but remember some people, like the guy who walked in with a full-size canoe. His goal was to get that full-size canoe signed by every member of Friday the 13th from all of the franchises. So I'm not talking one this size or this size.
Can imagine.
Full size, sit in it and paddle kind of canoe.
I mean, have to respect the effort.
You got to, don't you? I know. You know, boy, you know, I remember a very, very fancy, beautiful electric guitar with all the different Friday the 13th stuff on it, and that he was taking around to get people to sign. I remember a little boy who would, they basically literally wheeled him out of the hospital with oxygen and stuff. And he, the two people he wanted to meet was myself and Robert England. He was probably 10 and on oxygen. And you don't forget that.
No.
You don't forget that. And very precious, dear little boy. know how he was doing, but it didn't look good. So, but, and that's when you just kind of go, wow, it's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. You know, that's
All right, next question.
you know, it's you know, it's you know, I can't help but you know, say I sincerely appreciate you coming on today, and it means the absolute world to me, because you know, being able to sort of create a platform where very special people like yourself can really change a lot of people's way of thinking, and you know, it means so much. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for caring. I really appreciate it.